This case involved campaign spending and the constitutionality of limiting donations and expenditures for such campaigns. It started in January 1975 when a group of plaintiffs led by Senator James Buckley of New York filed suit in the Columbia District Court, arguing that the Federal Election Campaign Act's contribution and expenditure limitations were a violation of the First Amendment. The defendants included Francis Valeo, then the NUS Secretary of State, and the FECA Commission itself. For this case, the law in question was FECA of 1971, which has two main parts. First, limitations on contributions or expenditures for any candidate running for federal elective office was set. That means outside individuals, committees, or political groups could only spend so much on a single candidate. FECA also set campaign expenditure limitations, which was to be decided by an FEC. Second, it called for the creation of a Federal Election Commission, which was an 8-member committee. These 8 members include the Secretary of State, the Clerk of the House, and 2 people selected by the President pro tempore of the Senate, 2 by the Speaker of House, and 2 by the President. They are in charge of tracking campaign donations and expenditures. This case brings up several issues. Is donating or spending money considered a form of expression? Or does the US government have the right to control how individuals, whether citizen or candidate, use money? The plaintiffs filed because they believe that the method of selecting the FEC violated the separation of powers and that the limitations on donation and spending for campaigns were a violation of the First Amendment. The Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of certain provisions of the FECA, which included limitations on contributions, the disclosure and record-keeping provisions of the FEC, the public financing of presidential elections, and the method of appointing members for the Federal Election Commission. However, the court declared other provisions of FECA to be unconstitutional, which included how much the limit was for contributions, limitations on campaign expenditures, except for presidential candidates who accepted public funding. 3 justices joined the court's per curiam opinion in full, while 5 other justices wrote own opinions concurring and dissenting in part from the per curiam opinion. The last judge did not participate. This outcome indicated that the Supreme Court was relatively unified in their decision. The courts decided that limitations on use of money for political purposes were in violation of the First Amendment upon the idea that no significant political expression can be made without the expenditure of money. In contrast to the decision on campaign expenditures, the court defended contribution limitations, claiming that they provided protection for the integrity of the electoral process. The court supported public funding on the basis that it facilitated and enlarged public discussion and participation. It also decided that the requirements for obtaining a public financing was reasonable because reaching the threshold would demonstrate a minimum level of broad-based support. As a result of Buckley v. Valeo, FECA was amended again. However, this also led to a sharp distinction between soft and hard money, with an increasing emphasis on soft money.